Welcome to Bestseller TV. I'm Taryn Winter Brill. We're here with Julie Cottineau. She's the author of Twist, How Fresh Perspectives Build Breakthrough Brands. It's great to have you with us.
So glad to be here, Taryn.
So first off, to what does twist refer? Is it a verb? Is it a noun? Do tell.
It's both, actually.
Okay.
So a twist is a noun, like a plot twist, something new and exciting about your brand and your business. And it's also the verb, to twist things together.
Okay, so to what does it apply?
So it applies to finding a fresh way to talk about your brand, to stand out in the marketplace. And it also applies to the methodology that I've created where you look at a category for best practices of brands that you love that have nothing to do with your brand, and then you twist those best practices with your business.
Okay, so tell us about the genesis for putting this in writing. What did you find was missing? What was the mistake people were making that you're trying to fix with the book?
Yeah, I think it's so hard these days to stand out in any category. There's so much competition.
Yeah.
In fact, I just got back from teaching a class with Tyra Banks at Stanford at the Graduate School of Business.
Wow.
And Tyra always says that it's better to be different than to be better. And I think that's true. I don't think it's enough anymore for businesses just to be really good at what they do, unfortunately. I think they have to be really good at what they do, and they have to be unique and stand out. So that's why I wrote the book. I really want to help businesses of all sizes learn how to stand out, break through, make the most of the tiny budgets that we have these days.
And Tyra Banks would probably say that that was applicable to her, right?
Yeah.
Because in her time, she was different,
Yeah,
right?
she
was
broke
trying
through.
to do.
She had to differentiate herself, and it's also about personal branding as well in the book.
Sure, and I like you discuss in the book sort of the moment, that this idea, this twist approach came to be. It involved a mirage on a plane.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about it.
This is a true story.
It is, yeah.
So it was in the winter of 2002, and I was a branding consultant. I was traveling a lot, and I was at Newark Airport having a very ho-hum experience. I really love to visit clients, but I don't really love to travel because I find that the whole process is kind of boring. There isn't a twist.
Yeah.
And in this particular day, I was at Newark Airport, and I looked up, and all of a sudden I saw these McDonald's golden arches on the tail fin of an airplane. And in that moment, I thought to myself, that's an airline that has a twist. That's going to be different. It's going to have a more friendly attitude, maybe a menu of options. McDonald's likes to supersize things, so maybe I could order a regular economy seat, see the plane was really crowded, and then supersize my seat.
Yeah.
So I actually started to get really excited about this airline experience, and then I looked up again, and I realized it was a mirage. It was the reflection of the food court on the airplane window, and there happened to be a jet parked there.
How serendipitous, though.
I know.
I mean, the angles where you were sitting, a lot goes into that timing.
Yeah, it was crazy, and it was only about 30 seconds, but it was 30 seconds that changed my life.
Right, a light bulb epiphany moment.
Exactly.
So what did you do next? You said to yourself,
well, I said, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
I was working on some clients, and I went back and I said, I was working with a cosmetics client. I said, well, this is how we're going to innovate for this client. We're going to stop worrying about what all the competition does. It was Avon at the time. I said, we're not going to look at Revlon or L'Oreal or Mary Kay. We're going to look at brands that have great experiences, but in different categories, and take those experiences and twist them back. And we did that, and we came up with, 1 hour brainstorming, tons of new ideas that we had never approached before. And from that moment on, I've been twisting.
Yeah, off to the races, twisting. So can you give us some real life examples, some twist stories, like you mentioned Avon, how, putting this, or execution of the twist, so to speak?
Well, I actually had the great fortune to work for Virgin for many years as the head of brand.
Richard
Branson. And one of the reasons I was so excited when they called me to go work there is that Richard Branson has been twisting for years, right? He started Virgin Atlantic with no experience in the airline business. He was a record company producer.
Right.
So Virgin Atlantic...
I don't know if people realize that. It's the same Virgin.
Yeah, it is the same Virgin. And so Virgin Atlantic is actually a twist between a record company, or disco, because it was created back then, and an airline. Virgin America, which was one of the brands that I worked on when I was at Virgin, is a twist sort of between an airline and Apple, right? It's very intuitive. It's got mood lighting. They pay a lot of attention to design.
Right.
So those are just a few examples. If you're in an industry, if you're in the airline industry, stop looking at what all the other airlines are doing, because chances are they're all doing it the same.
Right.
Look at a category for brands that you admire, that inspire you, like Apple or BMW or IKEA, and then twist those experiences.
And it's curious. I mean, it's a unique experience. I can imagine working. I've never worked there, but I can imagine working for the Virgin Group and Branson. What did you take away from that experience? I mean, what did you learn? Just tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, so much.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I really learned is Richard has this expression called "screw it, let's do it." And it's
Screw it, let's do it.
Screw it, let's do it.
Okay.
And it's actually the title of one of his best-selling
Right.
books. And it's really about, if you have an idea and you think it's a good idea and you think it's going to solve someone's problem, then just try it. Minimize your risk. Maybe try it in beta, or cover your cover your behind so you don't lose the farm with the idea. But just get out there. Don't overanalyze it. Don't overtest it. And
Okay.
I've really been living that principle. And in fact, I took his motto to heart. So I worked at Virgin for 5 years as the VP of brand in North America, creating lots of businesses. And then I came home one day and I said to my husband, "Screw it, let's do it. I'm going to start my own business." And
Right.
he said, "Well, I don't think that's what that means. We have 2 kids to put through college." And I said, "No, that's exactly what it means." I had an idea that there was something missing in the market. I thought there was a lot of branding advice there that was really good, but very much about branding theory. And I
Okay.
wanted it to be branding advice that you could actually use to build your business.
Okay.
So that's why I created Brand Twist.
So tell us a little bit about that execution. If you have a problem with your brand isn't what you want it to be, what do you tell your clients? Give us a little sneak peek into what you'll get in the book.
Yeah, so the first thing people say to me is, "Well, I have a problem with my marketing. I don't have enough money."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's actually not really your problem, most likely, because even if you had 10 times the budget, you might not have the right brand story. You
True.
might not be standing out." So the first thing that I look at is, what is your story? And the most important component of your story is, who do you want your brand to appeal to? Who is your key target audience?
Okay.
And a huge mistake that I see is that a lot of businesses say, "We want everybody. We want everybody to use our product or our service. We don't want to offend anybody, so we're for women 25 to 54.
Okay.
And the problem is that's not a target audience. That's like a census box.
Right.
And when you're really talking to women 25 to 54, you're coming out with too broad a message. So you're not going to really connect with anybody. So we spend a lot of time in the beginning of twisting, figuring out, who do you want to twist with? Who is your target? Who's your bullseye target? Who do you really want to help?
Okay, and you talk a little bit about brand blinders.
Yeah.
I'm saying that right? What
Yeah.
do you mean by that?
So when a horse is wearing blinders, they can't see anything. I think a lot of people a lot of executives in the C-suite spend a lot of time thinking about their category, thinking about their competition, and inadvertently they have brand blinders on, which means that they end up doing exactly what everybody else they're competing with does. They're trying to look legitimate, but they don't necessarily have a twist.
Okay.
And a really good acid test of this is, if you're in a certain category, print out your website and the homepage of 4 or 5 of your closest competitors and cross out everybody's name and logo and see, can you tell them apart? And if you can't, that means that everybody's got their brand blinders on.
Interesting.
Because they're using the same imagery, the same language,
Right.
literally sometimes the same stock photography, right? So what I say is, take your brand blinders off, lift your head up, actually go out into the world. We do these things called brand safaris, where we take clients into retail experiences. We go to the Apple store, we go to Converse and make our own sneakers. We go to a Starbucks and sit for a while and see how people are interacting. And then we take those lessons and twist them with our brands.
So Julie, I love that you're taking your clients into the field,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
call them brand safaris.
Yes, right, and you have a little bit of a safari.
Yeah, I do.
on your scarf. But I love that because it's outside the box, and that I feel a lot of consultants, when they're consulting about brands, it's theoretical and look at this example, but really getting in there and getting your hands dirty is a different experience than just theory and analytics.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm twisting brand twist almost with Weight Watchers, right? I think that a lot of people know what they should eat and they know what they should do, but I love how Weight Watchers actually gives you tools and accountability, and you get out there and you go to meetings. It's the same thing with brand twist. When we're working with a client or working with a student in our online school, we're not just teaching you what you should know, we're actually helping you do it.
Do it, right, in real life. So just curious, you mentioned this idea of covering up your logo and comparing your websites to others. And when you talk about, you mentioned Starbucks. I mean, what did they do? Are they a good example of twisting? How did they stick out and sort of take the lead and get ahead of the pack?
Yeah, they're a great example of twisting because they're not another coffee shop.
Yeah.
If you read what Howard Schultz has talked about, they're the third place. They were trying to create community. So the whole brand experience, from the moment you walk in and you see the logo with the mermaid, it's not a cup of coffee,
It
it's
is a mermaid, right?
And you see the baristas with their green aprons, and they actually have their own language, and they have the leather chairs, and they have the free Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And a lot of people actually don't know where Starbucks, the name, comes from. Do you know where it comes from?
I don't.
No. It's actually a character in Moby Dick, Captain Starbuck, who was drinking coffee all through the book.
Oh.
So from the very beginning of the Starbucks experience, they knew that they didn't want to be a coffee shop. They wanted to have a twist, which is more like a literary salon or a place to gather.
Right, but they were so sort of ahead of the time, I guess, up to that point. Who remember, did we even have coffee? We had Dunkin' Donuts, these kinds of places. I did want to spend a little bit of time, Julie, on your personal brand, right? Because the purple is a planned thing, right?
Yes.
That's part of who you are. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think it's really important for executives to embody their brand. So my brand is purple. You can see it on my book. It's purple and pink. I only ever dress in purple.
Yeah.
The nails are purple.
True, yeah.
The outfit is purple. But purple for me is two things. It's passion, and I'm really passionate about twisting and helping people with their brands. And it's also a color that symbolizes prosperity. And I really believe that branding is a business exercise. It's not just creative, and twisting is fun and it is creative, but at the end of the day, the title of my book is Twist: Fresh Perspectives for Breakthrough Results. Because I saw at Virgin and other businesses that I've worked with that if you can have a really strong brand twist, you can make your budgets go so much further, you can really stand out, and you can actually charge what you're worth. If you have a strong twist and you have a strong story, then people are going to pay a premium for your product or service.
But you mentioned a good point. I mean, what about someone watching who said, I just don't have the money to create a great brand. I don't have the money to execute what you're talking about.
Yeah, when I worked at Virgin, we spent probably 40% less on our marketing budgets than all of our nearest competitors.
No kidding.
But we still had advertising and marketing that really broke through because it had a twist. It was very fresh in terms of the visuals, in terms of the language.
Right.
Richard Branson himself is a great personal brand. Everything that he's doing with the adventures and the kite surfing and the world record, and also personally committed to making the world a better place. That's stuff that he spends time in his own time, but it really supports what the Virgin brand stands for as well.
And what do you say, or how do you combat this idea of C-suite executives who are spending more money on technology or user experience? Brand, they say, the brand will come. It's a byproduct of the other two.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I get this question from CMOs all the time.
Yeah.
They say, we believe in brand in the marketing department, but how do we get the CEO or the CFO on board?
Right.
And one of the things that I
The
say
CFO is the most, right? They're the ones, right?
Right,
You gotta
exactly.
convince.
So I say, take him or her out to a brand experience. The next time you want to have a meeting, have it in a Starbucks, and while you're sitting in the Starbucks, noticing that it isn't just like all the other coffee shops. And by the way, you're spending probably 5 times more for your double cap, whatever it is.
And people are still doing that. It's amazing. I thought that would not last, but no, people. It's like inflation. People don't
They're
flinch.
doing it because what they're buying isn't coffee. They're buying that experience.
The experience.
And so have that conversation with your CFO or CEO. And if it's not Starbucks, take them to another brand that you really love, right? Have that conversation there. and then say, what we're experiencing here is brand, and
Right.
that's why we need to pay attention to brand.
Right. Maybe they're not realizing that is the brand.
It is the brand. Your brand and your business are like this.
Right.
You don't spend years or months developing your business and then tack on the brand at the end. What Virgin does really well, and what I help clients do, and what I talk about in the book, is how to build your brand from the very beginning of your business.
Right.
And if you already have a business, how to improve your brand through a stronger twist from moving forward.
Right, but how do you create a stronger twist? What is the process like? Because you want to differentiate, but what if you say, I don't know what that means,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what's your
So we
advice?
talked already about the target. The next
Right.
thing is figuring out what your promise is,
Okay.
and realize that you're not promising what you're selling. Right? Starbucks isn't selling coffee. Virgin isn't selling a way to get you from point A to point B. Right? So think about that emotional promise. Netflix, a brand that we were talking about before that we both
Yes.
love, right? They're not selling a way just to download content. They're selling a way to get control of your time, right? To discover new things or just to relax, which we all need right now.
Right.
Right? So once you figure out what I call it in the book, your top of the pyramid promises, then you can twist with that and figure out how to express it in all your different touch points.
Right, and you also talk in the book, like personally, you say to look into your own personal interests, right? Your own personal hobbies. I like you mentioned one client who is into acrobatics, right?
Yeah.
And she kind of took her love of trapeze, and was it cooking?
Well, no, so it was Hercules.
Hercules, right.
So Liz is a graphic designer.
Okay.
And she had a website, even though she was very talented, her own website, kind of the cobbler's shoes, was not that different. So finally, one day I convinced her to take her own passion for trapeze, which was a hobby, and twist that with her brand. And she rebranded as Big Top Design.
Right.
I had another client who was a kitchen designer, a professional kitchen designer. On the side, she liked to do ballroom dancing. We twisted those things together. She rebranded as kitchen choreography.
Love it, right.
So sometimes your personal passions can be things that you could really use to bump up the twist in your professional brand.
Yeah, but I like that because a lot of times people don't merge the two worlds together. They strictly have that professional hat on. But look at, there's so much creativity when you kind of look at the person.
Yeah, and I think you have to do that today. Anybody in the C-suite really has to do that because just, again, being smart, professional, high quality, it's not enough anymore. And life is more fun, actually.
Yeah.
Business is more
for
fun
sure.
if you can bring in your personal twist also.
Which I think is so important. And just real quickly, you mentioned Virgin, you mentioned Starbucks. Who else? Apple, Converse, who else? What other companies have twisted without us even realizing?
Yeah, I love what Blue Apron is doing, for example, right? It's not just a way to get a meal. Right? I had somebody in one of my workshops that said Blue Apron actually saved her marriage. That's what they're promising. Because once a week.
I say that about TiVo for my parents.
Yeah.
When TiVo came out, it saved their marriage because they used to argue so much about what to watch.
So once a week, she's cooking with her husband and they have something to talk about.
Right.
So I think brands that make things easier, that make things more fun, that actually give us less choice in a weird way, are brands that are really winning these days.
Yeah, there's some. We've just, we've barely scratched the surface with what's in the book, which is good, which is why you have to read it. But it's truly unique and inventive, and it's a new perspective on looking at different things to create your own brand and run with it. So congratulations!
Thank you.
It's terrific, and
Thank
we love
you.
the purple.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Thanks so.
If you'd like more information on the book, just check out our website, csuitebookclub.com, c-suitebookclub.com. I'm Taryn Winter Brill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Bestseller TV.